He saw a world where mankind became enslaved by its own creation. He realized that debt was not a number. It was a shape of human relations turned solid. If labor sets man free, debt binds him again. Behind every exchange, every handshake, he sensed an invisible creditor. That creditor was neither God nor man. It was the system itself. He gave it a name, capital. And the mark it left on human history was the most perfect artifact of all. A civilization built not on faith or blood, but on obligation. Debt became the unseen gravity that held everything together. Empires rose on it. Families survived because of it. And sometimes, entire generations vanished beneath it. 1818, Trier, Germany. A small town wrapped in morning fog. A lawyer's son is born, Karl Marx. He would one day write volumes on history, but his first lessons were written on the streets. He saw soot on the faces of workers. He smelled iron, sweat, and quiet resignation. He was too young to name it, but he felt the presence of something unseen, an invisible debt between those who worked and those who owned the work. At 12, he wrote his first essay about faith and duty. At 16, he began to ask questions his teachers could not answer. And at 19, he left home, chasing the logic behind the pain of others. The Industrial Revolution was a miracle with a price tag. Factories multiplied faster than morality could adapt. The more machines there were, the fewer choices people had. Men borrowed their future to survive the present. Marx wandered through London's smoke-filled alleys, taking notes by candlelight in cheap taverns. He saw men sleeping beside machines that had replaced them. He realized that capital did not just buy labor. It borrowed time from human lives. The more wealth is produced, he wrote, the deeper the shadow of debt that sustains it. To him, wealth and debt were twins, born from the same mother, necessity. Marx came to believe that debt was not just an economic detail. It was a skeleton of civilization. Every empire had borrowed something, gold, land, blood, or belief, and every empire collapsed the moment its debts outweighed its dreams. He began to see that man does not labor to live, but to repay promises he never made. Every wage, every law, every handshake whisper the same command. Pay what you owe. In that whisper, Marx heard the rhythm of history itself, a song of workers and kings, sung in the language of debt. A century later, another child opened his eyes. 1892, Berlin. Walter Benjamin was born into a house of mirrors, where everything glittered and nothing was free. He would inherit comfort, but not clarity. His father's wealth came from credit. His mother's peace came from ignorance, and young Benjamin felt trapped between both. One evening, standing before his father's safe, he wrote in his diary, "Inside this box, faith is imprisoned. Debt imitates the language of God. God promises salvation. Banks promise credit." He was only 12. Benjamin's youth unfolded in the noise of war, explosions in the streets, money losing value overnight, people running toward banks not for hope, but for proof that they still existed. He noticed something strange. Even in ruin, people kept borrowing. They could not imagine a life outside of obligation. Debt, he murmured, is the theology of a world where God has gone silent. To Benjamin, society itself had become a church. Its prayers were applications. Its hymns were interest payments. And its rituals were endless renewals of belief. Belief that the system would not collapse, because collapse itself was unthinkable. Benjamin never saw the internet, but he predicted it. He wrote of a coming world where belief would live in numbers, and morality would be replaced by measurability. He said, "Man will not be judged by what he owns, but by what he is credited for." He died in 1940, fleeing across the Pyrenees, a suitcase of manuscripts in hand, a heart full of unfinished sentences. But his prophecy survived him. We live inside it now. Every click, every purchase, every borrowed minute is part of the new scripture. The gospel according to credit. Long before coins or contracts, there were promises. A fisherman owed a farmer owed a potter, and debt was not shame, it was memory. When people began to record those memories, civilization was born. You owe me became the first complete sentence of society. It was not greed that built our walls and roads. It was trust. To owe someone was to belong to them, and to belong was the first form of safety. Marx saw debt as the evidence of solidarity turned into a weapon. Benjamin saw it as ritual that had lost its meaning. Marx said, debt began as proof of connection and ended as justification for control. Benjamin replied, it was never evil. It simply forgot who it was for. Together, their voices describe a paradox, that humanity cannot exist without debt, and yet it never stops trying to escape it. Fast forward to modern America, the empire of credit. Here, debt is not a flaw. It is freedom's uniform. Your credit score defines your worth, your ability to rent, to drive, even to dream. To live as an American is to live on borrowed time, borrowed money, borrowed faith. Debt became the language of ambition and a ticket to belonging in the modern dream. No debt, no story. Marx would frown. They no longer define themselves by labor, but by credit. Benjamin would smile softly, and that credit has stolen God's throne. The Church of America has many branches. Its temples are banks, its hymns are transactions, and its saints, those who borrow without fear. Debt built this nation, literally. Governments borrow to fight wars, to build roads, to survive elections. Corporations borrow to expand empires. Citizens borrow to stay alive. The system breathes through credit and liability. When debt stops moving, the machine suffocates. Debt is not a chain. It is oxygen, but too much oxygen burns. Debt fuels both innovation and destruction. It gives life and takes it away in the same heartbeat. We are told to be responsible. Repay your debts, live within your means. But the entire system is built on collective borrowing. Your mortgage funds a banker's bonus. Your student loan becomes a Wall Street product. Debt flows upward. Responsibility stays below. Freedom in this world is something you finance. The righteous borrow less, but the powerful borrow everything. Debt has emotion. It smells like relief and tastes like fear. It keeps you awake at night, but it also gives your day a purpose. People cling to their debts because being indebted means being acknowledged. To owe is to exist. To owe nothing is to disappear. This is why, even when given freedom, many choose another loan, a mortgage, a subscription, a promise of stability in monthly form. In 2008, the system cracked. We saw promises turn to dust. Banks fell, governments trembled, but people still lined up to borrow again. Benjamin would have understood. Faith does not die when temples fall. It simply moves online. Today, debt is everywhere. A quiet belief we all share. The last religion that still pays interest. Debt has evolved into data. Algorithms decide who deserves to borrow. AI predict default before desire. Your habits, your relationships, your silence, all translated into numbers of trust. The next generation will not ask for credit. They will be measured for it. Their lives will be pre-approved or denied by code. Efficient, cold, unavoidable. Benjamin once wrote, in the future, angels will carry ledgers, not harps. He was closer to truth than he knew. Marx saw the structure. Benjamin saw the soul. We live between them, born indebted, dying indebted. We borrow love, time, attention, even forgiveness. And in that constant borrowing, we find what it means to be human. We are creatures of promise, forever paying for the belief that tomorrow will be better. Debt built our homes. It forged our wars. It shaped our dreams. Perhaps the only thing we truly own is a promise to pay. We keep borrowing. We keep believing that someday it will all be worth it, even if we never escape.